Hello everybody, my name's Nicola and welcome back to my channel. This is the Frugal Cottage, where we talk all things money to help you on your financial journey. Today's video is one of the most highly requested videos that I've had, and this is how to feed your family for £50 a week. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So every time I do my cash envelope stuffing videos and mention the fact that I on average spend about £50 a week as a family of four, I get so many messages from people saying, how do you do that? So this is how you can save money on your food bill, minimise that food waste, and still enjoy the process of food, cooking, whatever else. So the first thing, and sometimes when I'm walking around the supermarket I don't understand how people do this, but the first thing you need to do is you need to menu plan, i.e. create a weekly plan of what your meals are going to be, and then write a shopping list that goes with that. So the first thing you need to do is decide for the next 7 days what your meals are going to be on an evening. So it doesn't have to be rigid, like stuck in stone. So if you put that on Wednesday you're going to have risotto, but actually on Wednesday you don't fancy risotto, you can switch it around. But the 7 meals that you have in your nightly, like tea time, dinner time, whatever you call that, let me know what you call that down below. Those meals are there so that you have the options already in and they're available, so that you don't have to make the decision when it's that time, when you're hungry, when you're tired, because you've already got it there. You also then need to write a shopping list based on what you've decided as those meals, so that you get the right ingredients. And this is what gets me. So when there are people in the supermarket who have like full trolleys of things but aren't using a list, I don't understand how they know what they've got. So when you write a list, make sure that you get all of those ingredients that you need for those 7 meals on there first. Then you can think about things like breakfast and lunch, and I'll come back to those in a bit. But the main thing is to plan just what it is you're going to eat. Because if you go without the meals in mind, then you are going to end up picking random stuff off the shelves. You're probably going to get things that don't really make a meal. And also then when it gets to the day, you're kind of stuck having to make a decision, probably not enjoying the process because you don't really know what you're doing. Whereas having that meal plan and then a list makes that much easier. In terms of wasting food, also having a plan and a list will minimise that, because you're not buying things, especially fresh produce, you're not buying it where you end up throwing away, because you've got a plan for when you're going to use it. The second thing, and I suppose this links to this, should be how you start your list. When you've picked your meals for the week, you then need to go and look in your cupboards and see what you've already got. So I've got 2 blog posts about starting a stockpile and how to organise it, and I'll leave a link below to those. But once you've got your meal plan in place, the first thing that you should do is check to see if you've got any of those ingredients in your house already. So for example, I know that 9 times out of 10 I'm always going to have chopped tomatoes in the cupboard. It's something I buy on a very regular basis, and it's kind of for us like a cupboard staple. Sometimes I won't need to add that on because there's no point, because I've already got it in stock. So the first thing you should do when you're writing your list is check to see what you've got at home already, so that you're not duplicating what you already own, i.e. you're not buying things that you already have and spending money on things that weren't necessary. The second thing you should do, if say you are going to make, so one of our favourite meals at the moment, and I've got a recipe post on this, again I'll link it below, is it's a bacon, mushroom and pea risotto. And that uses kind of half a pack of bacon. So if I'm going to have that risotto on our meal plan, I'm then left with half a pack of bacon that I need to decide what to do with. So when you're doing your meal plan, be clever about, if you're only going to use like half a packet of something, can you use that other half a packet in a different meal on the same week? Because then you're using it for 2 different meals, and again that will minimise the price. So say if we've had that risotto on one night, maybe then on another night we'll have kind of like maybe beans on toast with bacon and eggs on the side, something like, so like maybe like kind of like an all day breakfast but at tea time, just so that that bacon gets used up and isn't wasted. Now I don't know who anyone would ever say, oh yeah, throw out loads of bacon, but the point being is that if you have one meal that uses half a packet, have another meal that's different, or the same if you're okay with that, but generally different, that uses up the other half of the packet, because then you're not going to end up throwing something out. You're also making one item kind of do in 2 separate meals, which reduces the cost of that. But also it's kind of thinking ahead and thinking, right, well, I've got this, what else can that go with? And it's kind of making that shift into turning it around. So instead of going, oh well, I don't know what to do with this now, I've got this half a packet of bacon left, you've already got a plan for a different night to use that up. The more you get used to using that system, the easier that will be. And sometimes you'll have it where on purpose you've got 2 different meals in the week that use the same product, because it's easy, and it does make it easier. It's easier, but B, you're not wasting all of that, and it doesn't just get sat, left, and then ended up thrown out at the end of the week. Because at the end of the day, all that food that you're throwing away used to be money. And the third thing is to do with brands. Now I know, and I guess we're included in this in some things, that people are very particular about brands. As in, they stick to the same brands week in, week out. They know that they're going to be okay because they've had them before. And sometimes the unknown can be slightly off-putting, daunting, whatever word you want to use there. However, if you are someone who buys branded items, so say you buy Heinz ketchup, for example, rather than the supermarket brand, but if you use branded products all the time, they are all more expensive. They just are, because you're paying for that brand name, you're paying for the marketing of that item. It generally tends to be more expensive. One of the easiest ways to save money on your food shop is to go down a level in terms of brands. Instead of getting the branded things from like a big company, get the supermarket. Can be supermarket kind of best if you like, or just their own supermarket range. And I'm going to show you now some of the things that we do in terms of own brands that help us to save money. So I'm in the kitchen now. I thought I would share with you some of the ways in which having non-branded items will help you. So these are just a few of the things that we buy that are non-branded and actually save us quite a lot of money. So one of the biggest things is we buy Morrison's own Weetabix, but we also buy Morrison's own Special K, and the difference in price on these, as soon as we buy this every week, is massive. We also buy squash that's non-branded, so again, really big price difference. Chopped tomatoes, I always have chopped tomatoes in the cupboard. If you buy the branded version of these are like double the price. These are so much cheaper, and when you're cooking them into something like a bolognese or a chili, like they don't taste any different, and they're like I say, like half the price. Again, if you buy these, so these are red kidney beans, these are just Morrison's. They're not the cheapest, so they do like a savers option. These are just their own brand. Again, if you buy the branded versions of these, they're so much more expensive, and you're literally buying the same thing, but this is cheaper. In terms of pasta and rice, so I have quite big jars of pasta. I've got another one that's got rice in, and another one that's got like couscous in. If you can buy the bigger packets of things, the better the price is per kilo. The bigger bag of pasta you can get, the better it is. The bigger bag of rice you can get. As long as you have somewhere to store that, that is a really good option. Obviously it's dry, so it doesn't really go off as such. And as a family, we kind of go through quite a lot of pasta and rice and things like that as meal bases. And I talked before about kind of what we eat in terms of this all includes this example. So these are Morrison's version of a Twix. This has 4 chocolates in here, so the twin bars. This is 60p for 4 of those. A Twix, the same kind of thing, would be like £1.50. So although it's kind of small amounts of money, over time with so many different items, you save so much money by doing that. And if you do that every single week in, week out, getting the branded versions is so much more expensive. Getting the supermarket own brands is much better for you and your wallet. And that's about it in terms of branded. I do recommend, there are some things that we buy branded, mainly because my children prefer the branded, but it's very kind of few and far between. And I always try and get them an offer as well if I'm going to buy the branded version of anything. The last thing to talk about in terms of saving money for or feeding your family on £50 a week and kind of saving money, but more so planning ahead, is batch cooking. So I'm a massive fan of having a slow cooker, and I've talked about that in videos before, but having a slow cooker and doing kind of multiple meals on one night really does A, bring the budget down, but B, it makes it a lot easier. So one of my favourite things to make in the slow cooker is a bolognese sauce. So I'll buy the biggest pack of mince available and the additions, so chopped tomatoes, carrots, onions, garlic, whatever else you like to put in there. And I'll cook a massive pot of that and we'll have it for tea on that night, and then I'll freeze the rest into portions for our family. So this is like so useful in so many ways. First of all, the bigger pack of mince you can buy, the cheaper it is. Just works out that way. Second of all, a slow cooker is great because you can just leave it on while you're at work all day. It doesn't hardly cost anything in terms of electricity, and it makes food taste really good. And then the best reason of all, and this is where the money saving thing comes in every week. So if I do that one week and say I make 3 different nights worth of meals in one slow cooker pot, for another 2 weeks I've already got the bolognese sauce ready to go in the freezer. You just need to put it in the pan and heat it up. Those additional meals, yes, I've got to put it with spaghetti, but spaghetti is not particularly expensive, are already done. The bulk of the cost has been kind of in the first week, and then it doesn't cost you anything in the next 2 meals. And if you can do that on a regular basis, so bolognese, chili, lasagna, anything that you are sauce based, I suppose, most of the time can go in the freezer. You could even make lasagnas up and have them like pre-cooked in the freezer, and then you put them in your own oven from frozen, cook them from frozen, and they'll be fab. Things like curries, soups, you can freeze most things. So if you are willing to get in the habit of making a bigger portion that you would normally do, so if you're going to make a chilli on a Saturday night, just double the portion size for that one and then put half of it in the freezer for next time. And if you do that consistently over time, shepherd's pie is also a good one, they freeze beautifully. All these kind of things, because you're buying larger portions of it the first time, it is cheaper than buying the smaller portions, which I know makes no sense, but that's how supermarkets work. So writing a shopping list, writing a weekly meal plan, breakfast and lunches are included in this for me, so we buy all of our food. The only person that this doesn't include is my 5-year-old gets lunch for free at school because he's in year 1, and that's how that works, but the lunches and breakfasts are included for everybody else. What I would say is that it helps if you are willing to repeat things. So for example, for breakfast in our household, it's the same every morning. So my children either have Weetabix or Ready Brek. Now Ready Brek is one of the only branded items we buy. I've tried the supermarket own brand of that and it did not go down well. And I've tried 2 different supermarket own brands of Ready Brek and they both wouldn't eat it. So that is one of the ones where I do buy the branded version. I don't know why it's different from my point of view. It doesn't look any different. You don't make it any differently, but according to a 5-3-year-old, it's very different. But breakfast to us, they either have Weetabix, or we all do, either have Weetabix or Ready Brek with a banana, and then followed by toast every morning. I guess we're creatures of habit. Lunches tend to be sandwiches of some description, and then fruit, a cereal bar, some kind of chocolate for my husband, and some juice, or some water in my children's case. That's it. So they're, in terms of the meal plan, they're just the same week in, week out. That doesn't change. Breakfasts are really easy. Again, we get the supermarket own brand of Weetabix, not the branded version because it's a lot cheaper. But it just makes it easier. So, you know, all the decisions you have to make all the time as a parent or as a person doing the food shop, all of these things make it easy in the long run. So when you're doing your meal plan for your family, the simpler you can make it, the cheaper that will also probably make it in the long run. So if you're buying loads of different cereals, can you do with just like 2 or 3? We've also got muesli in the cupboard as well for when my 5-year-old decides that he likes that. And I also have Morrison's own version of Special K that I have occasionally. But again, it's the supermarket brand, it's not the expensive version. And on a weekend it can be slightly different, so sometimes we'll have like the croissants that you get in the freezer and you cook from frozen on a Sunday morning just for a treat, or we'll have pancakes sometimes, or things that are slightly different on a weekend, but again, not things that kind of push the price up much more than that. And lunches are just the same, we always stick sandwiches, crisps, fruit and water or juice. And that's it. So to run through how to feed your family for £50 a week, you need to make some kind of plan for a week so that you know what you're eating, and then write a shopping list that goes with that. That should be the first thing, that should be the really obvious step. Second of all, you then need to kind of shop your own cupboards and start to build that kind of stockpile of things that you use all the time. Like I said, I'll leave a link below to the 2 blog posts that go into that in more detail. Third is to do the brands. Just try it out. Sometimes, like I said, for the Ready Brek for us, we tried that and it didn't work, but for most of the time, having branded products is much more expensive because you're paying for the company's marketing and all that kind of stuff. And then batch cooking is an absolute lifesaver, especially if you're kind of like a busy family. Having that way, it's been in the freezer, you just shove it in a pan and it takes like 2 minutes to heat up, rather than going for the faff, honestly is so good on like a work night or weekday when you're really busy and can't be bothered. And then it is kind of trial and error, so work through what kind of meals your family's enjoy on a regular basis. So maybe a Tuesday can be pasta night, so you have something that's pasta based. Wednesdays could be rice night, so you have something that's based around kind of rice. Fridays could be like fake away night, so it's, you know, something like, I don't know, like a pizza or a fake, like Chinese takeaway, but at home. If that makes that easier, then try that method. It's just working what works for your family, but also what doesn't feel like a chore, and that is how you will feed your own family for £50. And I guess in addition to this is alcohol and lots of additional extras in that sense will make your food bill much more expensive. There's no way around that. So if you're buying alcohol on a weekly basis, have a look at how much that costs you, and have a look at how much do you really need all of that, especially if you're drinking every night on a weekday. Perhaps look at reasons why that is, and maybe in some cases look at different alternatives to that. And likewise, we don't really buy that many snacks. I do baking occasionally, and again, if you're buying lots of additional extras, that can cost. My husband has a chocolate bar in his lunch every day because he's got a very kind of a manual job. He walks a lot every day for his work, but I buy him and he's fine with this, I buy him the supermarket own version of Snickers and Twixes because they're loads cheaper, and he's quite happy with those. They don't even look very different when you get them out of the packet. They literally look the same. They might be slightly smaller, but that's the only difference. I hope this gives you some ideas about how to reduce your family food spend. I think the biggest things are making a list, making sure you're not buying things more than once, and changing it to branded versus non-branded items. They're the biggest things that will save you the most money, and then not throwing away any kind of waste should be the biggest driver and the biggest factor in changing just how much you spend on food. Let me know down below if there's anything else I can help you with in terms of reducing your food spend, and I will try and leave kind of useful links. I do have a reduce your food spend course. I will leave a link below to that as well. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you again very soon.